Run It Studios presents the All Things Community Podcast, hosted by Trina Wilcox. Welcome back to the All Things Community Podcast, brought to you by Run It Studios. I'm your host, Trina Wilcox, and we've got a guest that is returning, Jacob Brower. But now we're not talking about running. We're not talking about the What's Likely app. We're talking about your first book. So welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Trina.
Congratulations. So you did something that I feel like a lot of writers probably do. They've got a book done sitting over there waiting to be published, but then this other idea kind of tugs at their little mind and needs to be answered. So elaborate on how that happened for you.
Yeah, next level procrastination. Yeah, so I had already completed a manuscript about a year and a half ago. The working title is "We Don't Control Our Thoughts: The Reason we buy, behave, and believe the way we do." And it kind of comes from a marketing standpoint, but it touches on some other things. And it had been, and there was just kind of a mental block there as far as getting it out. I was a journalist for 18 years, but for whatever reason, I never had a problem um, publishing journalism because in my mind, that didn't belong to me. That belonged to the community.
Wow.
So with the other book, it was kind of like, as long as it stays on my desktop, it's mine, which is kind of a weird way of looking at it. But so anyway, I finally pushed myself, and I even released a couple of chapters online. Got some good response, and I figured, okay, that's going to push me to publishing this book. And as I got started the process of the publishing process, the idea of September 10 hit me, and it just wouldn't leave me alone. And it was one of those things where, I'm sure every writer or any creative profession has gone through this, where you're, uh, you know, 2:30 in the morning, and you're, oh my goodness, I've got to write this down. And so you get up, and then so it like the idea wouldn't leave me alone. So yeah, that's kind of how that started.
How long did it take you to start and finish the book?
Uh, I
Once you
want to
had the
say,
idea, like, did you
so,
start right away, or were you slow to start it?
yeah, I don't know exactly, several months, which is kind of a compressed time frame. But it was one of the things that surprised me was um, the best parts of the book were the easiest ones to write. The
Hmm.
ones that you would think would be the hardest would be the easiest to write, because a lot of the character Jack McCune, a lot of his life experiences are based on mine. So a lot of it was lived experience, so it was easier to write. Um, what I found most difficult was the more mundane things that connected, those stories, and why they're relevant to who Jack McCune is on September 10, 2001. Um, which I figured it would be the other way. I figured the ordinary stuff would be the easiest, but it's been the most challenging part.
Well, let's talk about that. The title, a lot of times you'll have a working title and then that change and evolves with the writing, but your title was pretty set in stone. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it was. I got about a third of the way through when I realized, pardon me, when I realized that this was the 25th anniversary. And so that was whenever I realized that it was very important to me to release the book on September 10, on
Uh,
the 25th anniversary of the day the book set on.
So talk about that a little bit more too, because you kind of shared it's not one of those foreshadowings and
Mhm.
everything else, but talk about why September 10 is so important.
Sure. So unlike most people, I don't remember a doggone thing about September 10. And I think that's kind of part of the beauty of it. And I don't want to get too philosophical here, but I think most people, when they look back on their lives, they're not taught, they're not thinking about, oh, this major thing that happens, and they do to an extent, but a lot of the happy parts of lives, the parts of life that makes you content, are just the normal ordinary days that seem ordinary at that point. And then, you're thinking about it, 3 years later, the first time I played Candyland with my daughter,
Yeah.
things like that. So I wanted September 10 to be a celebration of an ordinary day. And it's one of those days that I don't remember. I don't think many people remember much from September 10. So the concept of September 10 has always fascinated me. And one of the decisions I made in the book, and I was very disciplined about this, is I say the date and the location in the first sentence in passing, and then never again.
Hmm.
After that, it's the reader can draw their own significance. After that, it's a normal. It's Monday. It's the office. It's work. It's family. It's home. Um, yeah, so it's just an ordinary day.
So once you finished writing, how did you feel and how do you feel now?
Um, that's an interesting question. So I love the book, um, which kind of scares me because that means it's either excellent or it's complete garbage, and I'm sure people will have differing opinions. But uh, no, I really like the book. I think it's some of the best writing I've done. Um, yeah, I really like the concept, and as soon as I had the concept, that was the difficult part. That was the most difficult part, was the concept, and then after that, I just kind of ran with it.
What was hard about the concept for you and how did you plan your writing or did you?
I didn't really plan it. So basically, I wish I had a better story to tell you, but generally, it's whenever I had something that I wanted to add to the book, like, you know, notes
Yeah.
app. Oh yeah, all right, let's
Yeah.
write that part down.
Yeah.
So I think people like to envision, sitting at the typewriter with a pipe and ascot, and yeah, no, yeah, none of that happened.
No. Yeah, I like hearing how some people do it. Some of the writers talk about how they dedicate X number of hours, and then you've got the other ones that have folders everywhere. And then like me and you, we're pulling out our notes app and all
Right,
that kind of stuff. And I still love writing, the physical act of writing at times, but sometimes you just got to get it down when the idea strikes.
right, exactly. And
So
also, I've tried to not just in this project but in other projects. I've tried to keep a notepad by my desk or by
yeah,
my on my nightstand and write it down. But then by the morning, it's not the same
yeah,
idea, and you can't really recreate it. So I just kind of have to like get up out of bed and work
yeah.
work on it while it's fresh in my mind.
Let's talk about something that a lot of writers are facing today, and that is which direction to go when it comes to publishing. There are several options. How did you decide what you were going to do?
I've spoke to some publishing houses. I'm probably going to have to self-publish because we're so late in the game, which is fine. But it's generally like most of the published authors I've talked to, traditionally published authors I've talked to, even if you have a squeaky clean, completed manuscript, it's still going to be a 2-year process after that. And I didn't want it to be, okay, we're going to release this on the, 27th anniversary. To me, that didn't make much sense. So,
Right.
um, and plus it's I don't know, we'll see how it works out. I'm generally pretty good at marketing, so um I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard, a lot of the marketing does fall on the writer at that point, but you also gain so much control in the timing of your release, where it can go. There's props to each side of it. So I think
Yeah,
it's nice we have options.
yeah, and that's another thing I've is the I was kind of surprised with the lack of control of what a lot of traditional authors have.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a control freak.
Yeah.
Not a control freak, but if it's important to me, I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight for it. So
Nothing's
uh,
wrong with
I, I
that.
I wasn't ready to, as far as this concept, I wasn't ready to sign away any of my rights on like the title of the book or anything like that.
Do you think you've got another book in you?
Well, the one I already wrote.
Right.
Um, so I'll probably, I'm going to let this one breathe, and then we'll, probably the other one's not as timely, so I can probably go through the traditional publishing route, or at least try and see if those terms are favorable, and if so, put it out that way. If not, self-publish it in a couple of years. But I don't want it to be, I don't want my books to be, bam, bam, bam. I want it to be, um, yeah, I wanted to let each book give it a little bit of space to breathe.
So you're launching your book at one more page here in Springfield, Missouri, for those
Yes.
that are watching or listening from another place. But if you're here, come and tell me a little more about that.
Uh, I mean, it's a great little bookstore. It seemed like a great venue for it. It's one of the big things is parking. Parking is one of the things that I wasn't uh, didn't really consider whenever I was thinking about the book launch. So they have good parking. They have a great bookstore. Lorelei, she's fantastic to work with. So yeah, I think it's going to be a neat event.
Good. All right. Anything else that I haven't thought to ask you? Like, where can we pre-order it?
It can't be not yet,
Okay.
but it should be available for pre-order on Amazon anytime in here pretty soon.
Okay.
And yeah, and also if you one other thing I wanted to mention is I know as far as the theme of the Run It, uh, there's actually a couple of different parts of the book that long distance running plays a big factor in.
Yeah. It kind of builds and plays into his discipline and how he approaches things. And I think that's
Right.
interesting. And that was something else that you pulled from a little bit. Yes or no?
From my own life.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That of course, like some of the names and the name. I mean, the names are they're fictional people, but yeah, well, actually both, I guess both of those stories took place, happened with in my own personal life, and so yeah, those are the easiest ones to write.
What were some of the hardest things to you? You mentioned filling in some of the daily tasks for the character and the storyline, but what were some of the other things that you felt like were more of a challenge and things that, were so easy?
Um, Really, like I said, just the connecting pieces, the more mundane parts of September 10 itself. The beginning of the book was easy because it was actually when I came up with the idea. The Actually, here I can read it verbatim.
Sure.
It said, okay, yes, it was September 10, 2001, and Jack McCune was hanging an abstract painting above the couch on the bare wall of his World Trade Center office. He tried to come up with an interesting story about the painting. There wasn't one. It was a rainy morning, and Jack tracked wet footprints onto the office door. Looking for a mop, he made the long elevator ride down to the basement. His quest ended when he noticed a painting leaning against a pillar, apparently abandoned by a former tenant. The colors matched his office. That was the entire reason it was hanging there now. The floor was still dirty. Uh, and the reason I came up with that as the beginning of the book is that's literally what I did that morning. It was rainy and muddy, and I tracked footprints into the office, and I go down to the, obviously, not the World Trade Center, but my office building here in downtown Springfield, and I went down to the basement, and oh, there's got to be a mop down here somewhere. Oh, a painting. So,
Did
uh,
you did you have to keep I mean, I guess primarily Jack is the main character throughout here. Did you have to keep notes on what his profile, in other words, or did you pretty much have that ingrained in your mind?
uh, Pretty much had it ingrained in my mind simply because so much of Jack is me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parts of Jack that aren't, he's his own person. So, it's not autobiographical, but so many parts are based on me. So that was pretty easy to keep track of. Yeah, and probably I would have to say the character that's based on my father, he steals probably most of the scenes that he's in.
Mhm.
Because his philosophy was, he's still with us, but his philosophy was act like you belong. And
Oh,
so
okay.
he got himself into some places that he probably shouldn't have gotten himself into. I remember as a kid, we got backstage at a Ricky Skaggs concert. We had no credentials, no reason to be there. He just kind of found a way to get back there and talk to Ricky Skaggs for a few minutes. And in the book, we have to everything's 25 years earlier, so we have to, so it's Charlie Pride in the book, not Ricky Skaggs.
Okay.
And the other one, probably one of the other stories that's one of the funniest ones that's actually also based in real life is I was accompanying him to the state capitol on some business. He used to run or I guess he still runs the tag office down in the Anderson, Missouri area. And we were at the Capitol on some business, and we're walking through the Capitol, and there's a reception going on in the speaker's office, and he just walks in like that was his destination the whole the whole time. Gets a piece of cake, gets some punch. We're talking to the legislators and the guests and everything else, and finish it up. And he shakes the speaker's hand and thanks him for his hospitality, and we leave. And to this day, we have no idea what was being celebrated.
That's hilarious. That makes me think of like a Wedding Crashers or just that whole old adage, carry a clipboard and everybody will think you know what you're talking about and what you're doing.
Right.
So that's funny. That's really good. Well, it seems like you had a good time writing this book. Thanks for sharing it with us and come back for your next one.
All right. Thank you so much, Jenna.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
You
Bye
can
bye.
find out more, link over to watch or listen on your preferred platform from runitstudios.com. This has been Run It Studios Presents, the All Things Community Podcast, hosted by Trina Wilcox.